All right. So welcome. Today's Tech Talk is on differentiation. This is especially, I think, helpful at the middle school, high school level, which is where most of you are at. Although it definitely can be used in elementary as well. Okay. So to start us off, I'm excited to connect with all of you. I'm glad that you're here. If you're comfortable, I invite you to turn on your camera. It helps build a sense of community, but there is no pressure. Throughout the session, I will ask for your thoughts or ideas, and you can contribute by putting those in the chat. But you are also free to unmute and share or raise your virtual hand. So today's goal is that you will leave with some practical strategies to reach every learner. In chat, if you would please share what is one of the biggest classroom challenges you have when it comes to meeting diverse needs. So which areas are the most challenging for you or take the most time? So large grade level gaps in reading and spelling, engagement strategies, students ranging from gifted and talented to second grade level of reading in one room, different levels of background knowledge and language levels, low reading and writing. So very similar challenges. So hopefully today, the reading especially will be addressed in a way that will hopefully be useful to you without causing you a lot of extra stress or work. I had the same challenges when I was in the classroom with middle school and high school, having those large gaps and having to figure out how I was going to differentiate that before AI was available to support in those areas. So our agenda today, we're going to briefly look at why use differentiation and why AI. We are going to briefly go through differentiation for environment, process, and product, but that is definitely not our focus. And from your answers, that didn't seem to be much of your focus either. And then we'll take a look at some of the different specific tools and then how to differentiate specifically content. That is what generative AI is best at doing, is that content piece and differentiating the content piece. All right, so for generative AI or for differentiation, we've got our learning environment. So hopefully for most of you, this is review, but just to make sure we're all on the same page for where differentiation is, you can differentiate your learning environment, so the physical space the class is in, the content, so what the student needs to learn and how the student will gain access to that information, the process, which are the activities in which the student engages in, and then the product or the culminating projects that the student rehearses or applies to extend what he or she has learned. So within those four, again, the learning environment, process, and product we'll briefly go through because there are ways that generative AI can help support in differentiating those, but its main focus is really going to be on that differentiating content. So we always start with prompting. And if you were with me at one of our last sessions, I did go over prompting then as well. So I won't spend quite as much time on it today. But we always really want to start with prompting, especially if you're using one of the large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. All of those really require good prompts to get good outcomes. So the better your prompt, the better your outcome. If you're using specific tools like Magic School or School AI or Diffit, those are already pre-built tools that have some of the prompting taken care of for you. So you don't have to be quite as detailed in what you're requesting that they do for you. But you need to make sure that you are specific. Tell the AI exactly what you want, the reading level, language, format, or support type. State the student need or goal. Mention if you need the material simplified, translated, made accessible for different learners. Request a format or support. How do you want that product to look? And then always review, because AI does make mistakes. Generally, at our level, for what we're asking for, it gives you pretty accurate information, but you do always want to double check it and make sure that it is what you want. So within that prompting piece, we can look at environment. So adapting the learning space and supports or routines for our learners. In doing this, we use generative AI mostly as a thought partner. It obviously can't impact the space that we're in our classroom directly, but we can use it as a thought partner to help us come up with ideas that we may be struggling with or just need some fresh ideas. So some of the questions for this is, how can I arrange my classroom to support quiet and collaborative work? Suggest ways to make instruction clearer or more accessible during lessons. Ask AI to support you with routines to help multilingual or introverted learners. You can ask it to recommend low-tech options for students with limited internet access at home, or ask it to support you, like what kind of visual supports would be helpful for those learners. So in chat, is there an environment question that you would ask? Something about your learning environment that could potentially be helpful for AI to help you brainstorm as a thought partner on. Or if you don't have any, which of these questions would be most useful in supporting you? So visuals and anchor charts, you could ask it to potentially like prompt a process or to give you what a visual could look like. A lot of the generative AI language models don't support very good visuals at the moment. They can help describe them or give you ideas for where to get them, but ultimately they can create images. So I asked it to give me a routine to support a multilingual learner in the classroom with reading. I did not do a very good job with my prompt. And so I made sure to adjust it to give it a very specific role in what I wanted. And so it's giving me text, and now I can ask it to create a visual anchor chart, but whether or not it's going to successfully create what we're hoping for is going to be mixed. And this one actually, I think, did a very decent job. So I'm using Gemini at the moment, and this one created this for me. And so you can see it says my independent reading power-ups. I asked it to create an anchor chart for independent reading for a 5th grade student that was visual to support their reading.
Oh.
It decided it was tigers. So it actually didn't do too bad of a job. And if you were more specific in what you wanted from it, if you had your own acronym to use, then it could give you something like that. So Gemini, this is actually one of the better ones that I've seen Gemini create for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next part then is looking at process. So process are the different ways that students engage in or with the content during learning. And so there was a question, or one of the areas in the chats at the beginning was around engagement strategies. This would be where you could use that in looking at what types of engagement strategies could be useful in this content area for this type of learning activity. So some other questions, give me ideas for hands-on activities or interactive activities. If you know you have limited materials, that's where you would put that in. What materials do you have available for the hands-on activities? Do you have whiteboards? Do you have construction paper and glue and scissors? But whatever it is, putting that in there will help the AI to narrow it down, so it's not just giving you something random that you can't actually use. How can I scaffold this lesson for different readiness levels? Give me some enrichment tasks for students with who master a concept early, or provide questions that check understanding at various levels. So on this one, again, like what is a process question you would ask? So project-based learning activities for middle school social studies. Thank you, Blaine. So when you switch activities and you're using one of the language models, so Gemini, ChatGPT, I think last time I utilized ChatGPT quite a bit, but I have the free version and it wasn't very happy with me today because I was using it quite a bit. So I switched over to Gemini for today. But all of them do very similar pieces as far as how they interact with you and your prompting. So we said middle school. And you can always say I teach or you teach. Blaine or anyone, what would be a specific topic that you study this year? So I asked it to give me some ideas. So it said the explorer's Ayla, you're muted.
We have not been able to hear you. You're muted.
Thank you. Okay, so when you're looking at this project, I don't know how far back I need to go. So we have our like project-based learning ideas. I told it to make pitch 1 and to go with pitch 1. And so it originally gave me all 3. I asked it more specifically for a week outline. It gave me those. And then ultimately this one decided it was going to be a final production and presentation, so slides. Slides aren't always what we want to do with project-based learning. So I asked it to give me other ideas other than a presentation with slides. And so it gave a variety of different pieces or things that I could do, including interactive and digital alternatives. So the more you ask, the more questions you ask or prompt it to do, it will add those different things for you. Okay, next piece then, in going through this, so we did process. Product is the last one for our quick look. And on this one, you are looking at offering choices in how students demonstrate what they've learned. And so that actually we started to touch on in that piece there by asking it to show how could students demonstrate their learning from that project. And it had given a whole list of ways, including a presentation and a diorama. You can ask, how can I create choice boards for final project for this unit, or what should those options be on a choice board? Suggest options for digital and non-digital project formats. It can help you develop rubrics or checklists for students to self-assess, and it can also recommend ways for students to present their work in different languages or different media modes. So then today specifically, I've already shown you Gemini. And so again, on the bottom piece of these tools, you see just the language models that are available. So these all are very similar in features. Gemini, since we are Google Schools, if you're using Gemini through your school account, it is protecting your data. It's not using your data to learn. And so it's potentially a safer option to use. The free version of ChatGPT will take everything that you input and use it to learn and grow for itself and how it utilizes AI. And so if you're comfortable with that information being out there, just be extremely cautious with ChatGPT not to input anything personal from you or your students. Copilot, depending on whether or not your school has a Microsoft account, the free access to Copilot can also potentially be data protected. And then Claude has a very limited free version, but their paid versions tend to have really high levels of privacy protections. Some of the other programs that we will be exploring are School AI, Diffit. We have Note GPT, which is going to be for voice, and then Google Notebook LM. All of these are either free or have pretty expansive free versions that you can utilize to create these different differentiated tools. So in adapting content, which is really the core of what most of you are here for, we're looking at adjusting the level of an assignment, either high or low, or the reading, really adjusting the reading, scaffolding the assignments and activities, translating content, or providing audio or video supports for students. So there's a whole variety of different tools that will help us do these particular things. And just like before, we do have some prompt examples that we would want to expand. So in adjusting reading level, it can be simplify these instructions, rewrite this article at a blank grade level, translate the science worksheet into Spanish, provide an English and Spanish version of this text, or write a short audio script that students can listen to instead of read that you can then dump into a voice reader. So the next part is mostly going to be demo. If you have any questions, please feel free to add those to chat. All right, so we will go ahead and we will start with Diffit. Has anyone who has used Diffit before or heard of Diffit? Do we have any Diffit users? And you could do like a little thumbs up emoji or raise your hand. Awesome. So a couple people. So Diffit is a great tool. It's got a pretty robust free version that is available. If you have the paid version, you can export to Google and Microsoft. So potentially there are benefits of having a paid account, but the free version will do the majority of what you want it to do in regards of differentiating. This is a particularly strong tool, and I like it over using like Gemini or ChatGPT because it is designed specifically to differentiate text. And so it does a better job at it than most of the others because it's designed specifically to do that. So in the first part, you'll see Diffit here. When you're logged in, you can select text, PDFs, and YouTube links. And you have the option to preserve the original text. So if the original text that you're putting in is the grade level you want, you could click this and ask it to save it for you. If it's not, if you don't want the original grade level because you're adjusting it, then you would do so. So for the first part, I have an article on cloning. So this might be something that you have a high school student read. It is decently long. It does have a variety of words. It should be readable by most high school students. But if I was having like a 9th grade or 10th grade biology class read this, I would copy the link, and then I'm pasting the link into Diffit. Then I'm going to select the grade level that I want for this particular article. So in this case, I might say I want to start by preserving the original text. And I will go ahead and select 9th grade for that. And we'll do pages. So it will start by giving you an image. You're able to change this image if you don't like the one that it generates for you. They've done much better generating images. When I was demoing this for an elementary class, I asked it to write about polar bears, to give me some information on polar bears. And for a 2nd grade class, it gave me a bloody image of a polar bear eating a seal. So double check the images, because that's obviously not something you want to show 2nd graders. I would have scarred them for life. So in this case, just double check your images, make sure it's what you want. And again, you can switch out the images if you want a different one. And then it gave me the article exactly as it was written, because I asked it to preserve the text. So some of the things that Diffit will automatically do for you to provide like scaffolds or support is it will give you a summary. It will give you key vocabulary. So if you have a reading that you need stuff for, so you just have a reading and you're like, I want them to read this article, it will help create things for you. So it creates this vocabulary for me, and then it will provide a few multiple choice questions, a few short answer questions. And those are all of the things. And then usually it will give you, it will not. So those are the things that will come in the free version all the time. Now, if I have a student in this class who is at, we said, several grade levels below. So if I'm at 9th grade and say that they are at a 4th grade reading level, I can adjust the reading level. So I can go up here and say, I want a 4th grade reading level of this. And now I have a 4th grade version of the text. And so it went through and it adjusted the text for me. So in mostly what it's doing with that is it's adjusting the vocabulary. Now, if my student doesn't read a lot or read very fast, and I know I also need to shorten the text, I have the ability up here to modify the length. I can specifically modify the writing. So if it took out a couple of the vocabulary words that I am covering in that biology class that I need it to have, I can tell it to rewrite with those vocab words, even though they're higher level words. They're the academic words that we're learning, and so I need that student to use them. I can add those back in. And so then again, it has the short summary. And so you'll notice that some of the vocabulary is different. And so if you want those same vocab words, you are able to modify the vocabulary. So you can focus on academic vocabulary, decrease or increase complexity of the words. And then it will still give you questions and short answer questions. The last piece that you can also do is if you have multilingual learners that can read in their primary language, is you can also adjust the language. And it has just about every language. It has hundreds of languages in here that you're able to choose from to change those. Obviously, that does require that your student can read in that language. But if you're able to provide that and that's something that you want to be able to do, you have access to those here. So that is Diffit for the first part of Diffit. If I start new, so you saw that I was able to pull in a link. You can also do that with a video. It will not give you a new video, but I take this video, I take the link, I bring it back into Diffit. And again, if I want this to be a reading, it's not going to let me do that. In this case, this one is more of like a 5th, 6th grade level. And I'll generate resource. So you can generate resources from video. And what these will do is also give you a nice like summary short reading for students to review of the video that you had them watch. So this is the reading and summary of the video. And it's not a word for word of the video itself. It kind of summarizes the main points into a short article for you to use. And then again, it gives you vocabulary, multiple choice questions, and short answer questions. So if you have a video and you want this to be an activity for students, you're able to generate these pieces. And then again, you can modify the questions and the summary reading content by grade level, either going up or down, depending on the level of your students. And we can also always modify the length. So if I know I have a student that does not do a lot of reading, I can shorten it down to 2 key paragraphs. One of the things with our older readers that I found is a lot of my students that had accommodations for different reading levels didn't need less reading because they would finish super fast. They just needed accessible reading. And so a lot of times I like that this one doesn't just shorten it automatically. It generally will try and keep about the length that you have. So you have a decent length of reading, but it's at an accessible level for your students. And then if you need to shorten the reading, because that's an accommodation that they have or something else that that particular student needs, you do have the ability to do that. And the last part of Diffit that I really like, so those are the videos, is that you are also able to upload PDFs. So you can jump onto your computer and find any PDF that you have, and you can have it upload that. Again, to do the same thing. That also means that if you have just a printout because you've got a bunch of packets or readings that are already printed, you can scan those into your Google Drive and then upload them through this program and create questions or differentiate those readings. So if something that you have is printed or is in a PDF format, you can take those pieces and differentiate those for students as well. All right, so that is in particular Diffit. Not so much a file size limit as a word limit. So on the free version, you get 5, it was 5, was it 5,000 words, which is pretty significant when you think that like a typed page is approximately 300 words. So we're already talking about quite a large set. So if you wanted to do a book, you're not going to be able to do that. If you do a lot of book studies and you want support with books, there are a book option. To access past the 2nd chapter, you do have to pay for it. But it will do the same thing. So it will help differentiate difficult books down. It will give summaries of each of the chapters for students. It will give them questions to work on. And you can, again, adjust the level of the reading and the questions based on your students. So it would make it more accessible. We do have a couple elementary teachers. So there's one more thing I will show you with Diffit. The last thing that Diffit does, or one of the other things, is it will create literally anything. It does have a tendency to want to keep this as a 5-paragraph type essay versus a more natural article that you would find. But if you picked a topic, so like one of our topics earlier was the age of exploration. We'll pick 7th grade. It's informational. It will create text for you. One of the things I really like about Diffit that the other programs don't do, like you can ask ChatGPT and Gemini to give you the sources and where they pull that information, but sometimes it will make up the sources if it can't find them. Whereas this one will provide you with the specific sources and link to them. So again, I've got images. I'm able to choose more or less or upload my own. It gave me reading. If I want to expand this reading, I want it longer, I can ask for it to be longer. It will give me that summary. But then again, I'm able to have vocab. So I have this activity that it created for me. Here we go. If you click on the reading itself, it will give you an option to show sources. And then it's going to give me show sources. Or not this time. Usually they pop right up. They change the format. It's really weird. Oh, there we go. So they'll give you the sources. Sorry, before they were embedded in the reading. So I have 6 sources and it tells me where it pulled all of them from. If for whatever reason I decide I don't like one of these sources, I can edit the sources and regenerate the article. So you're able to create articles. So if you need a specific grade level article or you want an article and you want to be able to differentiate it, but you can't find one, you can have this AI create an article for you and it will tell you the sources and where it came from. And then you can choose whether or not to have it regenerate with different sources or even add a source that you know that you want it to pull some information from. So if I didn't like it using the Encyclopedia of Virginia, I would just select that off and I'd say regenerate, and it's going to rewrite it without using that source material. And so this is one of the only generative AIs that will pull the sources like that and give you the sources and allow you, there we go, to have them, and it will show you with the numbers where each of those sources or which sources are being used for each piece of information it pulls from. So it's extremely helpful to make sure that you have something that is accurate that you're providing to students and having them read, especially if it's self-created or AI created. Okay, the next thing that I would like to show you in differentiating is Google LM, or Notebook LM. So Notebook LM is a notebook feature that Google has created. It is free to use, especially as Google Schools. And then what Notebook specifically does is it lets you put in the sources that you want it to use, and it only uses those sources. So in this case, I decided it as like a health or environmental science class. We're looking at human health and ocean pollution. I put in a research article that was like 35 pages. That might be something I want like a high school juniors or seniors to look at, but maybe not actually read the whole thing. It would be a lot. It's a research article that was written at the college level. It's not something that I want them to have to fight through, at least not that much of it. So I was able to drop the article in. That was the only source I put in this. And then once there, I'm able to tell it that I want a video overview or an audio overview. I'm sharing sound. So for the video piece, it will generate a video based off of all of the sources you put in. So if you have several sources and you want to create like a preview video, or you want it to just create a learning video that your students are watching, then you put it in here, you tell it to create a video.
Let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about a massive issue, one that's kind of hiding in plain sight, unfolding deep within our planet's most critical life support system.
So just think about that for a second. Seriously, what if the very things we need to survive were turning against us? This isn't some sci-fi movie plot. It's the reality of a global health challenge that, believe it or not, connects every single one of us. And right there, that's the fundamental problem we're facing. The ocean, it's literally the engine of life on Earth. It gives us food, it controls our climate, it even produces the oxygen we're breathing right now. But it's facing this incredible threat, and that threat is us.
So I won't go through the whole video, but it gave me a 6-minute and 30-second video off of a 35-page research article. You can also do an audio overview. And so this is more of like a podcast piece, and it actually creates it as if it's a podcast.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of compelling sources on a critical topic and, well, distill it all down for you.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're focusing on a threat that's massive, it's growing, and a lot of the time it's completely invisible. We're talking about the deep connection between ocean pollution and our health.
It's a huge one.
You know, when you think about global health crises, maybe you think of, I don't know, infectious diseases, but our sources underline a really startling truth. Pollution is the single largest environmental cause of disease worldwide. It's responsible for an estimated 9 million premature deaths every single year.
That statistic, it should just stop everyone in their tracks. And what this research makes so clear is that ocean pollution is an absolutely critical, yet still deeply under-recognized part of that crisis.
Right.
So another version that kind of looks at, instead of creating an overview, a conversation between two people. And a lot of our standards are listening standards. So being able to create a short podcast, this one in this case is actually longer than the video. So the video is about 6 minutes. The podcast is about 17 minutes because it is a very long, involved research article. So it goes a little bit more in depth into it. But if you uploaded any of the things like a short story and you want them to discuss that short story, that's what would come out of that podcast. So in creating those pieces, you just create a new notebook and you're able to upload sources from your computer, from your Google Drive or Google Workspace. You can link in websites and YouTube videos, or you can copy and paste in text. So you choose the sources that you want included in this notebook. And then from there, you're able to create a variety of different activities or disseminate different types of information. And you can also have it interact. So here I'm able to start typing so I can ask and have it answer questions about the pieces of information. I could ask it to create a lesson based off it or an activity for students to do, or a jigsaw reading piece. So there's a lot that you can do if you are dropping things into Notebook.
That's cool.
So a lot, it does take a little bit more work to upload things into it. Right now, what you do have to do if you wanted to be able to utilize those is you would download them and then put them into like your Google Classroom. If you want to be able to share them directly into Google Classroom with your students, or even have students be able to access notebooks, you have to make sure that like your admin are on board with that. Students would have to have access to Notebook, which creates some issues around students accessing generative AI. So it does require a little bit of workaround where you do have to download those pieces that you want to share with students. The other voice and video option that I found that can work, like I prefer Notebook LM. I liked the voice quality and the way that it was set up, but Notebook Note GPT does have some free pieces. It doesn't even require that you log in. And so you're able to either do the text to speech, or you can go down to the PDF to audio. And either one of those allows you to upload it. So if I uploaded that very long article, because I did want my students to read it. So say I'm in an advanced biology class or environmental biology, and I want my students reading that research article, but I know it's going to be challenging. I can upload it here and then tell it to generate. I'm able to pick a little bit of information about my voice, and then I tell it to generate. And I've done all of this without logging into this program. It may take a few seconds. But it's going to give me a shareable audio file of the entire piece. So if you have any PDF or thing that you want to have voiced over, you can drop it in here. Or even have, because it doesn't require logins, if it's not blocked, you can have students drop it
Landrigan
in.
PJ et al. Human health paragraph threatens marine mammals, fish, and seabirds and accumulates in large mid-ocean gyres. It breaks down into microplastic and nanoplastic particles containing multiple manufactured chemicals that can enter the tissues of.
So voice isn't as great, but it does create a decent voice, because some of the voice to text that I've heard is awful and very, very robotic and mechanical. So it's still better than those. But it will pretty much allow you to take any PDF and provide a voiceover for it for free. And it's word for word. Whereas in the Notebook LM, it's creating a podcast from it, or it's creating a video for you. And both of those are disseminating the information into something more digestible and not giving you a word for word. So if you need that word for word, that text to speech, this is a potential program that you can access and utilize. And then the last thing that I was going to show you is really looking, I'm using School AI for this. You could really use Gemini or any of the other ones. School AI is built specifically for educators. You can sign up for a free account. My account is the free account, and it gives you access to several different tools and pieces, but you'll see that the beta version, which is what I recommend you use if you are using School AI until they fully release this version, gives you that same feature of you're talking to the chatbot. So I'm talking to Dot, their chatbot, and this is where I would want to draft my pieces. So if I have an assignment, so in this case, this might be something I give to a 9th grade freshman class as one of our first writing pieces. And so it's in this, I believe, essay. So it's an argumentative, but like from a personal belief perspective. So a good way to kind of bridge narrative and argumentative. I want it to be several pages long. They need to have a title, correct header, and it really needs to focus on having like a core belief thesis statement. And then for this particular year, my students were prone to talking about violence to solve issues. So I said there is no violence that you are allowed to use to solve this issue. So if I have this in here, I can then ask it and interact with it to help me differentiate or scaffold for different levels of learners. Actually, with our time, I will show you what I did. So I did a different one. Oh. So in this one, since the other one is taking a while, I uploaded a diorama assignment that was for 5th grade students. And I said that I have 2 students with IEPs, one that requires chunking the assignment into smaller parts and frequent check-ins. And I also need to provide that accommodation to at least 2 of my other students. And then one that is at a 2nd grade reading level, so 3 grade levels below in reading. I also need to support a new monolingual speaker who just transferred into my class. Please provide suggestions. So it initially just gave me some general suggestions, and then I gave it the assignment. So it's what is this project? What needs to be included? Where can I get my ideas? Who can help me? What can parents do? And then writing a paragraph about it. So the first thing that it did was help me create a checklist that I would probably then just use as best practice for all my students. And so I have a checklist that students can now go through and looking at this. So the first part is picking your region and your tribe. So looking at those, So looking at the list, I picked one. I tell my teacher which one I picked. Research the region. Plan your diorama. So very specific checklist. And as the teacher, I could even cut it up and just give them one checklist at a time to work on so that each piece is chunked and they're not overwhelmed by a big checklist. But this is more accessible than just that like information piece. That was all of this that was on a one-page sheet that students would have initially been given. Then the next part is that it said, okay, well, let's simplify like the vocab and the pieces that we include. So it simplified it for second grade for me. Obviously, at that point, we're still really struggling to read if we're at a second grade reading level, so there'd still be needing more support. But looking at like, what does the land look like? What kind of houses did people have? So prompting with more questions, helping with the building the box, writing the paragraph, which potentially we would be adjusting that paragraph as well. And then it's giving some other ideas for who I would use these different supports with. And then I asked it to create for me a scaffolded like planner for all students to use, or for specific students if I wanted to. So now instead of just saying like pick your region with that checklist, it has choose which group, and I have it there. And so this is for the paragraph. Actually, no, this one is not the paragraph. This is still working on the diorama. So describe the land. So what would they be doing to make the land look like whatever it looks like? Describe the housing, describe the food, describe the clothing. And then I asked it to write a scaffold paragraph for me. And so it starts with the topic sentence, and it gave me sentence starters. So obviously my highest level students are those on grade level. I might not utilize this with if we've already been writing, but for my students that need that differentiation and that support, I now have sentence starters for them writing their paragraph about their diorama and places that they can write. The benefit of using School AI is if I liked this worksheet and I wanted to use it, I just go up to export and I can send it directly to Google Classroom or Google Doc. Can also create it into a PDF that I can print. But now I have this document in Google Docs that I can edit and adjust if I so choose. Okay. That is the gist of it. This, I believe, like for essays, it would be the same thing because I kind of showed you that. So each part of an assignment that you feel needs to be adjusted or you need ideas for how to scaffold an assignment for a particular student, you can plug the assignment in and upload a file. So Gemini will allow you to upload files from your Google Drive. And I believe your desktop, and so will School AI. ChatGPT, the free version, does not allow you to upload files, so that's potentially less useful. But then you're able to upload your rubrics, you can upload your assignment, you can ask it, you can upload reading, and you can ask it to do a variety of different things with each of those. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. If you have questions, and then I would love to also hear like what are one of the tools that you heard about today that you are interested in trying? And what was most useful? I know I went through a lot, but I'm hopeful there was something that was useful to you and your teaching. And then I will stop the recording, and if you have questions, you're welcome to ask them or unmute.